anxious family members now continue to sit outside the civil hospital in Ahmedabad, waiting to collect the bodies of their loved ones post-DNA confirmation. Following the crash, government has constituted a high-level committee comprising experts from multiple disciplines to examine the matter in detail and also review processes. Aviation watchdog DGCA has ordered enhanced safety inspections of the Boeing 787-8 and 9 fleets of Air India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today visited the crash site and met the injured at the hospital. He even chaired a review meeting, met Air India CEO Campbell Wilson. Central and aviation agencies are probing the matter in detail now as to what led to this crash. Meanwhile, efforts are underway to recover the black box as well, which will of course help unravel the mystery. While the exact cause remains under investigation, early analyses suggest that the aircraft may have stalled shortly after takeoff, possibly due to a significant loss of thrust or power. Other theories include bird strikes, mechanical failure, or even sabotage, though no conclusions can be drawn just yet. And we'll get you all that is being talked about right now. But first up, the focus has shifted to investigations. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau will probe the Air India plane crash. The probe will be in line with protocols set by international civil aviation organizations. A US government agency that investigates civil aviation accidents will also be sending its team of American investigators to India to assist in the investigation of the crash. The British agency that investigates civil aviation accidents and serious incidents said that it will also be deploying a multidisciplinary investigation team to India to support the Indian-led investigation. Government is constituted, as I said, a high-level committee comprising experts from multiple disciplines to examine the matter. The committee will also work to strengthen aviation safety and prevent such accidents in future. The big question is, what led to the crash? The footage shows that the aircraft initially climbed on a normal trajectory before it suddenly began descending and finally crashed. Since then, a lot of theories have been doing the rounds as to what could have happened. One possible theory is loss of lift. This is what experts note, that the plane appeared to maintain a nose-up altitude and the takeoff was perfect, but the aircraft started descending, which can happen only in the case of the engine losing power or the aircraft stopping any lift, developing any lift. No flaps during takeoff, though it is not very clear with the visuals that we have right now, but they do seem to indicate that the aircraft's landing gear was not retracted. Experts believe that the pilot could have accidentally retracted the flaps and not the gear, as is meant to happen post-takeoff. So like I said, landing gear is down. This is certainly visible in the visuals that have come to light. This could be due to mechanical or some hydraulic failure. Bird hit is one of the initial theories that came to light, especially at this airport in Ahmedabad, which usually has a lot of problem of birds around. But experts do point out that this is unlikely because, one, you cannot really see a flock of birds in the visuals that have come out, and also there is no trail of any flame, smoke or spars from either of the engines. Of course, there is talk of a dual engine failure. Experts say this is extremely rare, 1 in a billion possibly, and the trajectory shows that the plane stalled due to loss of speed or maybe thrust. So we don't really know. We will have experts decoding this for you in just a bit, but I do want to expand this a little bit more. In an aircraft, flight, thrust, power and flaps are crucial elements. So thrust is the force propelling the aircraft forward, generated by the engine, while power is the rate at which this work is done, often related to engine output. Now, power and thrust are related. Higher engine power leads to increased thrust, allowing the aircraft to accelerate or maintain a higher speed. Now, why are we talking about flaps here? Because they are a crucial element, and in the videos that have come to light, this seems to be one of the points raised by many. Flaps are these hinged surfaces on the trailing edge of the wings of an airplane that increase lift and drag. They are extended to lower the required takeoff and landing speeds. During an aircraft's takeoff, which is the matter in this case, moderate flap deployment increases lift, allowing the aircraft to take off at a lower speed. While during landing, larger flap deployment significantly increases lift and drag, allowing the aircraft to descend at a steeper angle and land even at a slower speed. So what really happened in this case, we don't quite know. Of course, investigations will be on, but there are certain elements that are being talked about, and we take that with our guests in just a bit.
जब टेक ऑफ हुआ ना, तो सडनली 5-10 सेकंड कैसे लगा जैसे स्टक हो गया वो, बाद में से मेरे को लगा कि कुछ हुआ। बाद में प्लेन में लाइट ऑन हो गई, ग्रीन और वाइट। बाद में वो पता नहीं, वो प्लेन टेक ऑफ ज़्यादा करने के लिए वो रेस तो बोलते हैं क्या, रेस दिया होगा ऐसा कुछ, और सीधा स्पीड में ही घुस गया। मैं जहाँ लैंड हुआ था ना, वो नीचे की साइड थी, तो जब वहाँ थोड़ा पेस भी था प्लेन के जब बाहर, तो जब जैसे मेरा डोर टूटा ना सब, तो मैंने देखा ना जब सामने कि थोड़ा इधर पेस है, मैं ट्राई कर सकता हूँ निकलने के लिए, तो मैंने ट्राई किया निकलने के लिए, तो फिर मैं निकल गया उधर, क्योंकि अपोजिट साइड पे थे ना, वो बिल्डिंग का वो था ना दीवार, तो उधर से कोई शायद नहीं निकल सका होगा।
छोकरे कॉलेज में पढ़ने आते हैं ना, और रोटी पकाने जाती है मेरी औरत, तो हम टिफिन भर के निकल गए थे। तो बाद में 1:30 बजे बन गया इधर, तो छोकरे को देखने के लापता है कि औरत में छोकरी 2 बरस की बच्ची है।
मेरी बेटी तो गुजर चुका है, लेकिन हम लोग को कुछ तो खबर मिलना चाहिए ना, कुछ नहीं मिला है।
So updates coming in, the flight data recorder, or the black box as it is called, has been recovered now that it has been 28 hours post that crash. This has been recovered from the accident site in Ahmedabad by the AAIB, which is the investigation board. This marks an important step forward in the investigation. It will significantly aid the inquiry into what happened. The black box, of course, records not just the parameters of the flight, all the data as far as the technical data of the flight is concerned, but also it records the communication that takes place in the cockpit and through the ATS as well. Let's also go across to our guest joining us. Flight Lieutenant Meenu Wadia is former pilot and Air India and founder, former pilot with Air India and founder of the Federation of Pilots Aviation. Captain S.S. Panesar, former director, Flight Safety with Indian Airlines, is joining us. Parvez Damania is former executive director of Kingfisher Airlines, and Aurobindo Handa is former DG of the AAIB. This is the body, of course, that is now in charge of investigations. Aurobindo Handa, I want to begin with you. How difficult do you think this particular investigation is going to be? Because this is a crash that we've not, the kind of which we've not seen, possibly in a long time. Do you think this will be a particularly difficult investigation?
No, I don't think it will be a difficult investigation, because the AIB officers, they are very well equipped now. Because about 5 years back, if you recall, we had done the Calicut crash investigation, and the only challenge will be to get the domain experts on 787.
Okay.
This is the only challenge, I think.
But
Otherwise,
Boeing has expressed its willingness to join the investigations or help in the investigations.
Boeing last time also, it's a part of the protocol. If you go through the Annex 13, it is that the OEM and the manufacturer and the designers and the country where these people are situated, so all of them become a part of the investigation. But please understand, part of the investigation does not mean that they will have a say in the investigation.
Sure.
Part means they will be assisting us.
Yes.
The entire onus of investigation lies with DGAIB.
There have been some criticisms that flight safety norms, etc., are not very good in India, or they are not applied in the manner that they should be. How would you respond to such criticism that has come to light in the aftermath of this crash?
I don't agree with this kind of noise. You tell me, who will like to part with his life? If I am piloting an aircraft, do you think that I would wish to die? No, certainly not. So the ecosystem is not like that. And by the way, the medium of travel by air is still regarded as the most safest. If we were to compare it with railway accidents or road accidents, so the truth will be in front of you.
So, before I open this up to others as well, Aurobindo Handa, I want to understand from you as well. There have been some investigations into Boeing aircraft, 737 MAX, but there have been whistleblower-led investigations even into the Dreamliner. Do you think these are important aspects to keep in mind?
Obviously, whenever there was a whistleblower, I recall that the US Senate, so those guys were given attendance, they were given audience in that, and the FAA and the other people who were involved, so they were all taken to task. So I really don't know why such questions keep happening, Really, honestly, I don't know.
Flight Lieutenant Meenu Vade, I want to come to you. Do you want to also take this question that has been raised by some, that there are flight safety norms or requirements that are somehow overlooked or brushed under the carpet? Those could be some reasons why we have seen this crash or some other crashes in recent past?
Absolutely and 100% right. I categorically maintain that the safety standards in India are not as per international standards. There's far more required to be done to improve aviation safety. And this is what people like me, I have been trying for the last 50 years to improve aviation safety and standards. And I can give you hundreds of examples. It doesn't have to be my opinion. I can give you specific instances, specific data on why I maintain that the safety in India is not up to the mark and it needs rectification and needs improvement to a very large extent.
You want to expand on that very quickly if you want to highlight some of that data? Yes?
Sure. I'll give you specifics right from the mid-air collision that happened many years back of Chakri Dadri, Kazakhstan and Saudi aircraft, where about 500 odd people died. Now that crash was forecasted in writing, informed to the government, to the DGCA and Airport Authority. In writing, it was informed that this would happen, yet no one did anything about it, and the crash happened. Even after the crash, there were suggestions given immediately. It took a long time even for the DGCA to understand what we were talking about, to make improvements in that
I'm not
system.
hearing anything.
Secondly, all over the world, all accidents are investigated by specialist people who are qualified in accident analysis. A pilot may be very well aware, more informed than most of the other people who are on ground duty or a bureaucrat. But even for a pilot, you have to be qualified in accident analysis to be able to give all its worth to the standards of doing an accident investigation. And don't forget, as Mr. Handa just quoted Annexure 13, the preamble of Annexure 13, that is ICAO Annexure 13, that's United Nations, which says very clearly, the aim of an investigation is to prevent a recurrence and not to apportion blame. The exact opposite has been happening for years in India.
Okay.
And can I add to something that Mr. Handa just mentioned?
Yes, very
also,
quickly. Yes, sir.
Yeah. We have been again fighting for years to have an independent safety board and the government ignored it. Now they have just started it, and that's why the present DG is talking that we have an independent safety board. But as he mentioned yesterday on TV, it is certainly not independent. If he is answerable to the Minister of Civil Aviation and to the talks to the Secretary of Civil Aviation, it is certainly not independent. Yes, as he said, they may not be hassling him, they may be giving him total freedom to operate, but independent safety board means totally independent of any higher agency above him. Totally.
Okay. Let me also go across to Captain S.S. Panisar, who's a former director of flight safety. So your thoughts first up, as far as this crash is concerned, and what could have led to it, plus what needs to happen to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. We don't really know the causes, but we obviously need to be guarding ourselves.
Well, it's a very shocking thing that this incident has taken place with a lot of lives gone. Let me tell you one thing, this aircraft is very, very advanced aircraft. And now, I believe we're lucky that they got the black box also. After this black box, they will come to the exact reason for the crash. But one thing good, the pilot after takeoff immediately, if we say given a signal Mayday, that means Mayday is the most serious signal by a pilot when he says aircraft is out of control. That means something serious has happened with the engines, or the gear is not going up and the aircraft is not climbing, maybe the aircraft is overloaded. Now all these things have to be done and investigated. After the investigation will come to know. But unfortunately, in the DGCA we do not have, even the Aircraft Accident Investigation Board, we do not have a single person who is competent to investigate incident of high-tech aircraft or even a discussion with the high-tech pilots. They don't want to talk to them. We have always requested the ministry to have a profession, we call the professional, give them, let there be a judicial inquiry. When the professional people will enter in the judicial inquiry, they will give their opinion, they will give you, in case of passing, they will also give you recommendation how to improve the safety of aviation so that such incidents do not occur in future.
But sir,
It's a
why do
very
you
sad
think we
thing, so
lack
many
this
lives we have
talent?
lost
What
it.
you're pointing out is extremely serious. Why should India lack in this talent?
Well, that you have to ask the Ministry of Civil Aviation. I sent 3 mails to the Secretary that I would like to discuss with you the safety issues. I didn't get any reply from them. Why they hesitant to talk to us? We have professional experience, 37 years of experience in aviation. I have investigated, I was involved in many fatal crashes in the past.
Okay.
But they do not want to listen to us. And the airline, because of shortage of pilots, they reduce the training periods also.
Okay.
And although in this particular, the pilots were very well trained.
Absolutely,
I have no
absolutely.
doubt about
Many questions that still persist. One individual who has a lot of experience in this regard, Captain Steve, has of course gone viral on the internet talking about the plausible reasons of this crash. My colleague Zaka Jacob is in conversation with him.
All right, it's a global exclusive. We're getting the man who seems to have broken the internet with his theory, most plausible theory, let's put it that way, as to why Air India flight AI 171 from Ahmedabad to London crashed. Captain Steve is a US Navy veteran. He's now flying commercial for a number of years. Of course, he has a YouTube channel where he's a viral internet sensation. And the video that you put up earlier this morning, Captain Steve, first of all, thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18. But the video that you put up, you know, sort of parsed what could likely be the most plausible explanation for why flight AI 171 went down. Let's go by, each of those theories one by one. First, bird hit, which is the most common cause of both engines going down, most famously in 2009, the Captain Sully example. Why do you believe what happened yesterday in Ahmedabad is not a bird hit?
Well, it's a possibility, but we don't see any birds in the video. Now, the video is from a distance and it's grainy, but that it would have to be a lot of birds to take out both engines at the same time. In Sully's case, he had a flock of Canadian geese, and those are extremely large birds. We would see those in the video. I don't think they're indigenous to the area. It would have to be a lot of small birds. And then there's no evidence coming out the back of the engine of fire, sparks, or the engines coming apart. So without any smoke, any fire, or any sparks, I don't believe that they hit anything. I think that the engines were operating at full capacity.
Why do you think then the aircraft was not getting lift? If the engines were working, why was the aircraft not able to, at least from the pictures, that's what we can deduce, and that's what you've deduced as well. Why was it not getting lift then?
So the aircraft does get lift initially. It rotates off at a normal rate of rotate. They climb up right about the point where the pilot flying would ask for the gear to be raised up into the aircraft. That never happens. Now, I don't know if he asked for it or didn't. We don't know. We don't have a voice recorder yet. But the gear never comes up. And so the gear creates a tremendous amount of drag. At some point shortly after that, within a few seconds, the aircraft starts to lose lift. The only plausible explanation for that is the loss of power theory, which, again, it could have been fuel contamination. It could have been birds. My theory is it's not likely either one of those things happened. It could be that the wing was reconfigured. In other words, it went from flaps out for takeoff to flaps being retracted. And again, this is just my opinion. What could have happened in that cockpit was, instead of raising the gear, because the gear handle is very close to where the flap handle is, if the pilot mistakenly grabbed the wrong handle and raised the flaps, that would start a chain of events that you probably couldn't recover from at that low an altitude.
Can you explain this and break this down, in layman's language for our viewers to understand? Why are the flaps important to be kept open, or in whatever degree or angle they are at the time of takeoff? And in this case, if that didn't happen, you're saying that could be one of the reasons why the aircraft didn't get lift, and after about 600 odd feet, it started descending down. Why is that important? If you could explain that in layman terms.
Yeah, certainly. In order to take off, the airplane is slow. It's as slow as it's ever going to be when it's taking off. It's as heavy as it's ever going to be. And all your power is up and forward. So you don't have any spare power to add if you get into a bad situation. So it's the most critical phase of flight. And so we change the shape of the wing from front to back. There's something called slats at the front of the wing that come down, and then there's flaps at the back of the wing that come out, and that change in the shape of the wing creates much more lift. It also creates more drag, but we overcome that with power. Now, when you raise the gear, you get rid of a tremendous amount of drag by putting those landing gear back up into the airplane. The flaps are creating that extra lift over the wing. As you climb out, when you're in the back of a jet, you feel it do that steep takeoff. You think you're on a rocket. That's because the flaps are out and the gear has come up into the aircraft. Then at the appropriate speed, and that's the key word, the appropriate speed, you begin to retract the flaps and change the shape of the wing back to a more aerodynamic shape so that you can speed up and accelerate. You don't want those flaps out for the entire flight. They're just there for takeoff and landing. But if they're retracted prematurely, that it diminishes or takes away the lift potential of that wing at a time when the gear is down, and that's a bad combination. The gear is very heavy and causing drag, and the wing is changing shape at 200 or 300 feet when it should be based on speed up at 2,000 or 3,000 feet, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Also about the landing gear. There are people, on social media who've said that if the pilot realized that he's not getting lift and he has to make an emergency landing, then it's better the gear is out rather than in. How would you see that?
Well, if he had runway in front of him and he wanted to make an emergency landing on that runway, yeah, you would want the gear to be down. I don't think the gear was ever raised, and that's the issue. At the point where the flight path is normal, where they rotate off the ground and they're climbing out at a normal climb angle, that's when the pilot would ask for the gear up. The gear doesn't budge. The gear handle never got touched. So he gets up to about 600 feet. That's well beyond when the gear would be raised. Normally in my airplane at about 50 to 100 feet, I ask for the gear up. The gear would be almost all the way up by 600 feet. The gear stays out the whole time. That's why, again, we're not going to know until they get the black box information and they know for sure what the conversation was between the two pilots, whether the other pilot mistakenly grabbed the flap handle instead of the gear handle. If he did that, it would explain the flight profile after they rotate, where the airplane kind of wallows and then it just doesn't achieve flight. The nose comes up and then it pancakes off the end of the runway. So that explains a lot. It's a theory, but I don't think they lost power, and it's just a tragedy. It's so sad.
If indeed this is, and like I said, right at the top, this is the most plausible explanation, that the co-pilot mistakenly moved the flap handle as opposed to the gear handle. Didn't they have enough time to react and correct that?
Well, so you got to put yourself in the position of the pilot's flying, or the pilot flying. He has just asked for the gear up. So what would you think? You think if you see somebody next to you move towards a handle, you think they've raised the flap, or they've raised the gear. If they mistakenly grab the other handle, it's going to take a second or two to process all of that. He's looking out and seeing his airspeed now decreasing, his altitude now decreasing. Naturally, you're going to want to pull up on the nose or put more power on the airplane, all the whole time assuming that the gear is on its way up. It wasn't. And so in the 5 to 10 seconds it takes to sort all that out and correct it, that airplane's already pancaking into the ground. This whole event takes place in less than, about 30 seconds?
Yeah. And finally, the final theory, which is that of fuel contamination. I think there's been one example in the past. I think it was a British Airways plane. It was certainly over the UK, where they found fuel contamination leading to both engines seizing, and thereby the flight crashed. You don't buy that theory either.
Well, I think they would have known the fuel was contaminated when they were driving down the runway. When they pushed the power up, they would get some indication the engines would begin to sputter or stall. They have no indication at least we don't see any of that from the photos. They rotate at a normal spot on the runway. They climb out for at least for the first 300 or 400 feet normally. If it was fuel contamination, the fuel vehicles that they use to fill the trucks have sensors on them that sense water or any contamination in the fuel at all. And they're very sensitive. If there's even a drop of water in the fuel, the machine automatically shuts off fueling to that jet. So I haven't heard of fuel contamination in decades. To me, it's a very unlikely. And if it was fuel contamination, the idea that both engines failed at the exact same time because of the fuel contamination, it makes it even less plausible.
All right, Captain Steve, thank you very much. It's been insightful and really eye-opening speaking with you and trying to understand what could have possibly gone wrong with flight AI 171. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
All right, I'm tossing it over to my colleague Shiavni.
All right, let's take that forward. In fact, Parvez Damania is former executive director of Kingfisher Airlines, who continues to be with us. If you listen to certain experts like Captain Steve, Parvez Damania, they do suggest there could be a manual error. How do you look at that theory coming forward?
Good evening. I think it's very wrong to take a call like that it was human error. I think it's a question, the black box has already been found, and the analysis is not going to take time. So I think we should wait it out till the black box results comes. One thing is for sure, that there was a loss of power, the plane didn't lift up. And also, it's very, very clear that the bird hit chances are very poor, because even if there was a bird hit, the possibility of bird hit happening on both the engines is extremely rare.
Yes.
Again, the issue of contamination seems to be very rare. So I think the main thing is there was a complete loss of power. And because of the loss of power, the plane didn't lift up. Now the thing is, what happened? What was the mechanical failure? What was the reason? I think the black box and the cockpit voice recorder will give everything to us.
Yeah.
See, the pilots were very experienced, and the training is at Air India, I'm sure, is very, very good. So to go into the assumption within such a short time that it was a human error, I think it's wrong at this stage, I think. So
Okay,
we should wait it out and let's see what
No,
the
you're
results
absolutely
come
right.
from the
Obviously,
black
nobody
box.
can conclusively
Because
say exactly what happened. But Flight Lieutenant Meenu Wade, I want to understand from you, do you think an error of this kind was possible? Where the co-pilot, instead of lifting the landing gear, instead closed the flaps, and then so quickly things went out of hand?
What Steve commented, it is absolutely possible. However, I'd like to punch holes into some of the method of thinking what was given earlier, especially about the bird hit and the gear, etc.
Yes.
I'll give you my personal example of flying in a Jumbo 747-400 from taking off from Bombay. We had a flock of pigeons, which are small birds, not large birds. Flock of pigeons flying close to the aircraft, close to the V1 speed. We rejected the aircraft takeoff and came back to the bay. After coming back, it was discovered that 3 engines out of the 4 had packed up totally, just by a flock of pigeons, which are small birds. So it is not unusual for birds. And also, you don't have to have large birds for an engine failure, nor do you have to have wreckage of birds falling down. Because if a bird is ingested in the engine, it'll get mincemeat and you will not even see any parts of it on the ground at all. So that theory of birds is not impossible to start with. Secondly, as far as the gear and the flaps, what he was talking about, okay, yes, the pictures are not clear at all, and none of the pictures, and that is what I wanted to find out. And I'm sure if someone zooms into these pictures very closely, you would know whether the flaps have been raised or are they lowered down. Because if it was raised before takeoff, you'll get a takeoff warning. You will get a warning that the aircraft is not configured for takeoff. So on takeoff itself, I don't think the flaps could have been up. As he said, if he made a mistake in the air, I'm sure it could have been corrected almost immediately. So that also doesn't, it is possible, yes. Is it likely? No.
So if it was indeed an error, let's say from the co-pilot about raising the flaps or closing the flaps, do you not get any amount of time after that mistake has been made to rectify it? Because in this case, it seemed the plane crashed in 30 seconds.
Right. Now, since you mentioned time, that is of utmost importance. From rotation, from the time the aircraft is rotated for takeoff, it's taken about 11 seconds. Okay, and in that 11 seconds, till you reach the top of climb, which is about 600 feet. Obviously, something has happened in that less than 11 seconds. Maybe almost immediately after rotation, and the passenger who has aborted, who's been alive in the aircraft, he said he heard a loud noise. So it is possible something could have happened almost immediately after the takeoff. And since the pilot was expecting him to be doing a crash landing, he may have purposely kept the gear down, because in any controlled crash landing, it is advisable to keep your gear down, because that will take the main load during a crash. And normally you should have an open area after your runway, so you don't expect buildings. The main reason why so many people have died are because it has crashed into buildings and because there was a fire. Maybe if the area after the runway was open, maybe all
There
may
could have
have
been a
survived,
crash
or at least a
landing,
large
yes.
number may have survived.
Yes, yes. Captain S.S. Panesar, I want to understand from you as well. This is going to be a lengthy process. A preliminary report has to be given out in 30 days. But after that, it can be a lengthy process. Can you take our viewers through of what all checks need to be done, what all inquiries need to be made to, before you come to a conclusion over an aircraft crash like this one?
Ma'am, let me explain you in the simple language the takeoff process. After the aircraft is loaded, the commercial people, they make a trim sheet showing how much is load kept in the front cargo, rear cargo, and after pilot he sees the trim sheet and finds out the takeoff weight. According to that way he calculates the speeds for takeoff and airborne speed. And then accordingly there are certain amount of flaps which he uses for the purpose of takeoff. They are known as takeoff flaps. He may use 1, 2, 5, the figures are given on the Boeing chart. As per the chart, he selects the flap. Now, once he opens the part for takeoff, and after the rotation speed, he tries to rotate the aircraft. And after the aircraft leaves the ground, he comes to know through the instant vertical speed indicator. It tells you the aircraft has left the ground, then he shouts, gear up. The co-pilot then puts the gear up. And if he is also flaps up, he'll say flaps up. No pilot will move the flaps up till he reaches approximately the height of 1500 feet. All these things will come into through the black box, whether he removes the flaps up or he moves the gear up. See, there's nothing which we can hide. There are more than 200 parameters which are recorded in the modern aircraft.
Okay.
When I fly Boeing 737, only 4 parameters were recorded. Now all these black box will reveal the flaps taken, how much flaps he has taken, whether he takes correct flaps per that weight or not, and then the power. No, something serious has happened which it is very difficult to imagine.
It's very difficult to speculate as of
of
now.
the
Absolutely. Well, a lot of experts have a lot of theories, but it's...
flight and the cockpit voice recorder.
Yes, yes. So all
Only after
parameters
that,
would have
you
been
see flaps,
recorded.
you have to take the takeoff flap.
And all conversations are also recorded. Parvez Damania, 2 questions that are doing the rounds. One is, of course, of flight safety standards just overall in India. The DGCA has copped a little bit of flack on this, particularly after this crash, as one of our guests has also outlined. The other is an airline's own culture and standards. I want you to talk about both of these aspects, both the DGCA's responsibility plus what you think could have gone wrong in Air India itself, in the sense that, yes, it has a new owner, etc. But could the culture have, been the same where there was a lackadaisical attitude?
Let me take the second question first. I think Air India under Tata's is bringing about a lot of positive changes. Tata has a very serious culture and they would not overlook any flaws. Another thing, Tata is a very rich company and they would not have cut any costs or any corners as far as engineering setup is concerned. And another thing, no company would take chances in a situation like that. Forget company, no pilot would take chances in a situation like that. If the pilot had any way found that there were some defects and some serious problem, he would not take off. His life is also there, his family is there. So as this plane took off from Delhi to Ahmedabad, there must have been checks carried on at Delhi. There must have been checks carried on at Ahmedabad before it took off. The engineering must have cleared it, the pilots must have cleared it. So I don't understand how this could have happened. As far as DGCA is concerned, I know a lot of people are criticizing the DGCA, but you do have to understand that DGCA does have limited manpower. It's a very good thing, it's a very positive thing that the Indian aviation is growing extremely fast. Maybe at the same time, the manpower at the DGCA, the setup at the DGCA is not moving at that speed. Basically, not only in the area of DGCA, in India, the infrastructure is not keeping up with the growth. The growth is so fast that the infrastructure is lacking behind. I'm 100% sure the DGC is doing everything to gear up, because why would they want to take flak like this? Nobody wants a situation like
because
this to
there's no
come up.
accountability. I'll tell
Now
you what,
the air-
flak is one
the-
thing. Flak can be taken from time to time, right? It does not automatically breed a culture of non-tolerance of any lapses unless heads roll, unless there is personal culpability.
No. I am 100% sure that Tatas will take people to task. They're not going to let this go, because this has affected the Indian aviation and the image of Air India and Tatas tremendously, because nobody expected that this kind of situation would arise after the Tatas took over Air India. Another thing I will tell you, whatever I'm not talking of the in-flight standards, the seats and the entertainment system, but Air India has always been very particular as far as the engineering standards are concerned. And Air India has maintained very high level of engineering standards, and I'm sure Tatas have shaped it up. There will be more need of culture changes, and it will come around. But nobody deliberately wants such a thing to happen.
No,
So
of course.
I don't think we
Nobody
can blame
wants it
Air
to
India or
happen, but
Tatas
it
at
can
this
happen
stage.
sometimes because of negligences, etc. In fact, Boeing itself is facing a lot of questions as far as its own processes are concerned, not just the other planes, but especially this Dreamliner aircraft has come under question. Mr. Handa is back with us. Sir, my final question to you. How long do you think it will take to unravel the entire mystery now that the black box, etc. have been found, a preliminary report in 30 days, but overall for the final conclusions to be drawn, how long a timeline?
See, the ICAO Annex 13 mandates 1 year or lesser. So that's the outer limit. That's the outer limit.
And in this particular case, you don't find any particular roadblocks in coming to a conclusion soon enough, especially because the black box, etc. have been found?
No, I don't agree with you. Black box is the first step. So once we analyze the DFDR and the CVR, then the correlation starts. And then it's the entire process of investigation which has to be gone through. See, there are reps of designer, there are reps of OEM, there are reps of airline, but the pilots are not there. But the pilots are not. Then who has to defend the pilots? We have to understand that. So the investigation has to be very fair. All the stakeholders. So that's why each and every point is ruled out. Each and every factor will be taken. Whatever we are hearing on, whatever we are observing on all the channels, whatever, I shouldn't say noise, whatever is being discussed, each and every point and much more than that will be examined. I can assure you.
Okay, absolutely. Well, we do want a very fair investigation, but an investigation that happens soon enough so that it doesn't go out of public memory, and of course accountability to be set as far as this matter is concerned, as many as 260 plus lives have been lost.
I agree with you. The endeavor is always to finish it as fast as possible. But then there are many other factors. There are few test benches which are not available in India. They are not available with any airlines.
Because sorry, what did you mention? A few test what?
Test benches. See, whenever, if you have to check something, if you have to check a pump, you need a test bench, So there are few components which we encountered in Calicut crash that they were not available in India. They were neither available with SpiceJet nor with Air India. So we had to take it to USA. So now the whole procedure takes longer. So now everything will be hold. So none of us can, as of now, fathom what I would say roadblocks would occur. I pray that there should not be any roadblocks, but as of today, discussing here, no one can fathom, no one can make out.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Captain Panasa, you wanted to come in, sir? I have only limited time left. 30 seconds, please.
People are discussing about the culture. Let me tell you, the culture of aviation was different when our father of aviation, Honorable J.R.D. Tata, was alive. Today, the management is taking very vindictive action against the pilots who are very honest in their working. Any pilot who reports any snag and all that, they warn him. They even say, we'll sack you if you start delaying our flights and all that. People are scared to even report certain serious snags in the aircraft. So this culture has deteriorated. I have met many pilots, I know many pilots, I've trained them also. They are very scared to report the serious snags in the aircraft. They just discuss verbally with the engineer. They don't put it up in writing. But the moment they put up in writing, the HRD department, they warn them that if you start delaying our flight, we may sack you. So this attitude is very bad. It's not
this
a
is absolutely
happy
very
attitude
dangerous.
pilots are basically very honest in their job. They want to save fuel. They want to have good flying and all that to increase the life of aircraft. No pilot wants to do bad flying or anything. But if you blame them,
they could lose their jobs. Okay. No, you're pointing out at a very important aspect, and this is exactly what has come to light in the aftermath of this crash. Could there be certain issues that we need to sort out, not just particularly to one airline, but just generally speaking, because business can be cutthroat, but is it ending up taking lives is the big question. We'll wait for the investigations and more details to come out. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Moving on, Israel has launched a major attack on Iran early Friday, targeting nuclear sites, killing top commanders. This dramatic escalation has led to immediate retaliation from Iran, which launched over about 100 drones towards Israel, although the latter says that they were all intercepted. Regardless, Israel has declared a state of emergency, anticipating further missile and drone attacks. The conflict has caused global economic impacts, with stock markets dropping and oil prices already spiking. The Israeli government has justified these actions as necessary to prevent Iran from advancing its nuclear capabilities, and in response, Iran has vowed retaliation. Take a look at the key sites that have been struck by Israel. Tehran Research Reactor. This facility is known for its research and medical isotope production, heavily damaged in these strikes, we are told. Natanz Enrichment Facility, one of Iran's primary uranium enrichment sites, has also suffered significant damage, potentially setting back Iran's nuclear program, which would have been the aim. Fordo Enrichment Facility, another critical enrichment site, also hit, reports indicating extensive damage to the underground infrastructure. Bushehr Nuclear Power Plant, the only operational nuclear power plant in Iran, it has been targeted, raising concerns about potential leaks. Arak Heavy Water Reactor, this facility provides heavy water for nuclear reactors, has also been struck. And Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center, a major hub for Iran's nuclear research and development, was also targeted in these strikes. Israel's unprecedented Operation Rising Lion has claimed several high-profile targets as well. As the head of the secretive Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Major General Hossein Salami was one of the most powerful men in Iran, overseeing its most potent military arm and reporting directly to its supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Mohammad Bagheri had served as the chief of staff of Iran's armed forces since 2016. Rashid was a key military strategist and head of the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, which coordinates operations between Iran's regular army, the IRGC, intelligence services and missile divisions. He was widely viewed as a mastermind behind Iran's regional deterrence strategies. Ali Shamkhani is a close aide of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and represented Tehran at talks which sealed a landmark agreement to restore diplomatic ties with Saudi Arabia. Shamkhani served as the country's top national security official for a decade from 2013. Abbasi was one of Iran's top nuclear physicists and former head of the Atomic Energy Organization. He had survived a previous assassination attempt in 2010 and was a key figure in Iran's nuclear weapons research. Tehranchi, an academic and physicist, was closely tied to Iran's nuclear program and reportedly advised on strategic technology for uranium enrichment. They've all been killed and reportedly dead in this strike. And then there are at least 4 other notable Iranian scientists who have been neutralized in these strikes as well. Now, just a historical background as far as this entire conflict is concerned. Before the Iranian Revolution in 1979, Israel and Iran actually had relatively good relations. Iran was one of those few Muslim-majority countries that recognized Israel and had significant economic and military ties with it. But the overthrow of the Shah and the establishment of the Islamic Republic marked a significant shift. Iran's new leadership under Ayatollah Khomeini adopted a staunchly anti-Israel stance, referring to Israel as the little Satan and calling for its destruction. Iran's leadership criticizes Israel for its alleged occupation of Palestinian territories and supports Palestinian groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, who have often launched many attacks on Israel with Iran's support. In the 2000s, tensions escalated as Iran pursued its nuclear program Israel views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. This led to various covert operations, including cyber attacks like the Stuxnet virus in 2010, which targeted Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, this conflict has been through a series of escalations, including targeted assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists and military leaders before these recent Israeli strikes. So the big question we're asking is simply this: could this lead to a larger conflict in the region? This is what everybody has been fearing, in fact, for quite some time. Could this lead to a greater world war?
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat.
We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world.
Well, I'd love to avoid the conflict. Iran's going to have to negotiate a little bit tougher, meaning they're going to have to give us some things that they're not willing to give us right now. I'm the last person. I've kept us out of wars.
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Emmanuel Navon is author and Israel political scientist. Peter Kuznick is professor of history and director, Nuclear Studies Institute at American University in Washington, D.C. Mr. Kuznick, I'm coming to you first up. Of course, Iran has vowed retaliation. They have said that Israel is going to regret its foolish acts. What could be the possible responses from Iran? How dangerous could be its retaliations?
We know that Iran has a significant missile capability. The United States and Israel have been warning about Iran's missile programs for years now. So far, the Iranian response has been weak, ineffective, and tepid. But they have to expect that Iran will respond much more strongly. Iran's regional allies have also been weakened over the past year and a half. And so what they can do now compared to what they might have been able to do a couple of years ago is again compromised. But Iran is certainly going to have to respond somehow. They can try to flood Israel with missiles, decoys, and drones at the same time. And some of them will get through. Some of them will cause damage, but clearly this is a disproportionate battle. Israel is so much more powerful, so much more prepared, so much better positioned to win and to cause damage in Iran than Iran is capable in Israel. So this kind of thing can spiral out of control, but I think the real risk here is that Iran will now bury and fortify all of their nuclear sites and will possibly, I hope not, rush to develop a bomb in the future. And if that happens, then anything is possible. I think if Iran does develop a bomb, then Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Turkey will also develop nuclear weapons. We're going to have even worse anarchy in the region than we have now.
So do you believe, Mr. Kuznick, do you believe that even after these strikes, Iran would have the capability to come up with a bomb quickly enough?
maybe not quickly, but in the long run, developing bombs, as we've seen across the world, is not that difficult. They have the plant at Fordow is deeply fortified and deeply buried. We don't know yet. We haven't really gotten evidence or intelligence on how much Israel was able to destroy. Most American experts had said for quite some time that Israel could take out Natanz, which is not deeply buried, but they would have a much harder time taking out the facility at Fordow.
Okay.
And some other Israeli Iranian nuclear facilities.
All right. I am joined by Syed Hisamuddin Muhajir, who is an Iranian journalist. Thanks a lot for your time. How would you describe the extent of the strikes in Tehran and other cities today?
Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I want to let you know something. This is my house, and the thing which I want to make this clear, that the Israeli government is saying that it has targeted atomic facilities and army facilities. But as you can see, this is 100% residential area in Tehran city, and we have about 4 children that died in these flats. You can see in front of yourself just now. This is 100% residential area, no army base, no atomic facilities, nothing. This is showing how coward they are, and they should be waiting for the reply of the Iranian army.
Yes, the Iranian army has already vowed revenge. I want to bring in Emmanuel Navon as well. These pictures that we are seeing, Emmanuel, I'm not sure if you can see them, but as our Iranian guest is pointing out, that these are residential areas that have been pounded. The visuals certainly don't look very well. Children have reportedly died in these strikes. Iran has called this Israel's evil intentions.
Well, as we know, besides targeting those legitimate military targets throughout Iran, Israel has also eliminated Iranian leaders and scientific experts. And the pictures you see are, in fact, a pinpoint operation operated by drones that eliminated the leaders of the Iranian Islamic regime. These are legitimate and legal actions in international law when you fight an enemy. And this is part of Israel's acts of self-defense when it is targeted by an Islamic regime that has vowed its destruction for over 4 decades, and that was about to reach this military nuclear capability. And the purpose of Israel's preemptive strike was precisely to prevent this capability and to deny the most dangerous regime in the world the most dangerous weapons.
Is Israel confident of support globally for these quote-unquote preemptive strikes, and what do you foresee as far as the military response is concerned from Iran?
Well, we've seen that the Israeli military action has been extremely successful, that the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, has taken down most of Iran's defense capabilities, and that it is continuing. President Trump has praised the excellency of Israel's military action. He's been very impressed by it. When it comes to other Western allies of Israel, but not only Western, we've seen also the recognition by most democratic countries of Israel's right to defend itself. And at the end of the day, the free world can be thankful to Israel for protecting not only the Jewish state, but also the free world from this dangerous theocracy.
I do want to read out, I've run out of time, but I do want to mention this update that we're getting. Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, has held a conversation with many world leaders, including the German Chancellor, the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, and French President. He's also due to speak with US President Trump, Russian President Putin, and the British Prime Minister. These are some of the updates we are getting. Important to note there that he has had a conversation with the Indian Prime Minister on these strikes as well. We'll continue to track this very closely. I do thank our guests for joining us. But of course, major information that is expected as far as the Middle East conflict is concerned. Israel already embroiled in a battle against Hamas, but now opening this front as well. We'll have to wait and see how this situation develops in days to come. Time for a very short break. The Right Stand is coming up on the other side.
Brought to you by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Visuals of the Prime Minister there at that very mess from where that tail you can see. These are live shots, in fact shots of the crash site. You also have the Civil Aviation Minister Mr. Naidu explaining to the Prime Minister what really went down. You can see how Prime Minister Modi, before visiting the civil hospital, has inspected this crash site. He is right there under that very tail of the Dreamliner, which is still stuck there in the building. And the Prime Minister is trying to assess what really went down there. There are charred remains of these high-story buildings. One of the building under construction. Earlier, there were conjectures that were being drawn and people were hoping against hope that this was possibly a building where nobody was residing because it was an under construction building. But now, as details have emerged, it has become amply clear that the plane in fact hit Ahmedabad College Hospital, the mess where there were some people who were still dining. Their food was kept intact, and that's when the plane crashed. Possibly 5 people in that building have lost their lives. So far, there's no official number. 50 of the people on ground possibly also injured and receiving treatment. But yet, again, we're waiting for an official confirmation on the number there as well. There are too many things that remain unanswered as we put across these visuals post that crash. Prime Minister is being given a lowdown of what could have happened, how this crash could have taken place, but we do not know how. At about 1:39 p.m. Indian Standard Time is when the plane took off from the Ahmedabad Vallabhbhai International Airport, and then just while it was 600 feet above into the air is when the liftoff could not be maintained, and possibly the plane started coming down, and that's when the Mayday call was given to the ATC by the pilot. And in a few seconds, the plane crashed. Turned out to be rather fatal. Just one survivor who was sitting on seat number 11A. He miraculously escaped. The Prime Minister has just met him. Goes by the name Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. The Prime Minister has just met with him, spoken to him. We will see the details emerging very, very shortly. But you can see this line of buildings charred absolutely because of the way the plane came crashing. And finally, the tail got stuck in the last building, which was the mess. And that's from where there are casualties that we are learning of. Anshul, we are putting across buildings of the Prime Minister while he was at the crash site. He's talking to the officials. He's trying to, in fact, get a sense of what really went down here. We can also see the Civil Aviation Minister. So this was much before he met the survivor, the lone survivor of the AI-171 Dreamliner, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh.
Well, yes, just minutes before that, he had visited the first place that he visited from the after landing at the Gujarat airport was this location at the crash site, and now officially the visuals are being given out. And now in these visuals, it can very clearly be seen that the Prime Minister himself is looking very disturbed and is trying to get an exact sense as to what transpired and how the students who were living over here, how much of an effect did it have on them, how much of the effect did it have on building, what was the exact reason due to which the plane got stuck in the mesh building. So all these questions needs to be answered. You see, these are planes.
Why is it that the flight AI-171 crashed in less than 60 seconds? There are several theories doing the rounds, so let's quickly take you one by one through the same, and then we'll bring in our experts to decode it for you further. The first big theory, as is being speculated, is whether or not this was a result of a bird hit. In rare cases, bird hit may impact both the engines. So that's one big speculation. The second, why is it that the flight AI-171 crashed in less than 60 seconds? There are several theories doing the rounds. So let's quickly take you one by one through the same, and then we'll bring in our experts to decode it for you further. The first big theory, as is being speculated, is whether or not this was a result of a bird hit. In rare cases, bird hit may impact both the engines. So that's one big speculation. The second theory, which is being spoken of widely, is double engine glitch. Both engines losing power simultaneously, leading to this kind of a plane crash, though aviation experts have pointed out very clearly that this is a rarity. Yet, it's not been ruled out completely. The third theory is that of fuel contamination. Fuel contamination could lead to fuel clogging, which could then result in engine failure. And the fourth theory, which is being spoken of widely, overloading. The crew has to correctly estimate total load of the plane. The total load of the plane is a combination of the fuel load, the passenger load, and baggage load. Though this is a protocol, it's largely followed. So this is also something which is still in the realm of speculation. The load factor, though, is critical in summer.
Very good evening. You're watching The Right Stand. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. The Air India tragedy unfolded in seconds, but it remains one of India's worst aviation disasters. For families of the victims, the weight